Thank you very much, comrades. As always, it's a great honor to allow me to speak to you, because I'm just a poster boy, all right? I'm not the cause célèbre of this hour or of this time. I am not the reason why or the being for this event. In fact, it is an honor for me to speak to you, because you are doing far more for this issue than ever I could for myself or for anyone else. And so I say to you that I am not the hero here today, but that you are the hero. And this is your hour and your time. And I thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you in this forum today for this reason. Because you are making a difference. You are having the effect. It is not my efforts sitting in my jail cell with my pencil and my paper late at night that is making change. It is you who are taking my words and bending them to a broader audience and having a greater effect with them. And for that reason, it is an honor for me to address you who are doing the work that I so urgently see needs being done. And I thank you for it.
Yeah.
I will tell you, as I said earlier, it is an honor to be here and to take part in and attend this kind of an event. And I'm very pleased that, could I have an assistant, please? Here, just hold this for a moment. Thank you. I am pleased and honored to be able to come to you today to join forces with your organizing efforts in a very literal and easily grasped fashion. My jacket, please. And to identify myself with your cause and your issues.
Yeah.
However, as plain as these words may be, and as far-reaching as their impact may be or not, that is not the real reason why I'm here today. Where it may be amusing to have some old-timer come up and tell you about the good old days, or any of that other trashy nonsense, but that's not why I'm here. We are here today involved in a bitter, personal, revolutionary struggle against the powers that be. Recently, you may have been watching television and seen a fellow by the name of Ken Burns telling you about prohibition during the last week on PBS. You may have seen this. But what you did not see was how Ken Burns was not telling you that prohibition still lives. And that is why we are here today, because prohibition still lives. This country is on the edge of a great divide. Right now, all around the world, ladies and gentlemen, the revolution is on. Gil Scott-Heron, 40 years ago, told us that the revolution will not be televised. It will not be brought to you by NBC, ABC, or CBS, because the revolution is live. Unfortunately, Gil Scott-Heron did not realize that because of the live nature of that revolution, that it would be Twittered and Facebooked. And that's happening right now. In major cities all across the United States, the struggle continues. On Wall Street, in the streets of Tripoli, in Washington, D.C., in San Francisco, Omaha, Nebraska, Chicago, Illinois, Detroit, Michigan, and right here in Columbus, Ohio. The struggle continues. We are here as part of a broader movement. Any one single issue is a pipsqueak, a mere pittance, compared to the broader philosophical implications of our efforts. An old friend of mine, one of the most prominent anti-war activists of the 20th century, a reverend minister by the name of David Dellinger, who was part of the Chicago 8, once had the compulsive brilliance to tell me in his elderly, tiny, 80-year-old, aged, post-Chicago voice, "We must destroy the money system," he says. And this coming from a fellow who would rather go to jail during World War II out of principles for his pacifist leanings than fight the Nazis. This is a true story. We must destroy the money system. We must destroy the corporate greed that overwhelms us. Part of the reason why we are having this single issue, this legalizing, has to do with the regulation of corporate greed. And it has to do with the liberation from that corporate greed. It has to do with the reasons for why it is the people in Libya and Egypt have to overthrow the rich guy who runs the country so they can make a living and get by. The reason why we have to legalize it is so we can make a living and get by. The reason why we have to take over Wall Street and end corporate greed is so that we can make a living and get by. This, my friends, is just the beginning, the tip of the iceberg. And to quote another great mentor and friend of mine, the now deceased Jerry Rubin, who grew up here in Ohio, in Cincinnati, we, ladies and gentlemen, comrades, fellows of the faith, we are everywhere. And the whole world is watching. And so I come to you today, appealing to your better interests in your faith and your abilities to stand forth and make a change and be more open-minded and be more progressive and to make a cause that is broader than just your one single issue, because of the interconnectedness of the universe, the holistic reality of the truth of our situation. All is one in this struggle because there are philosophical reasons that underpin why it is that we should be smoking pot and not shopping at Walmart and overthrowing Muammar Gaddafi and not voting for the Friends of the W. And so I say to you, on this fine, beautiful Saturday afternoon, yes, we cannabis. And I enjoyed you. I implore you, I urge you, every one of you, to stand up and say this with me. Because it's a very liberating thing to stand up and say, yes, we cannabis. Yes, we cannabis. Come on, yes, we cannabis. 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 Thank you very much and good night.
Hi everyone. PTSD has become a huge issue for our soldiers nowadays. It makes it hard just to function on a normal everyday basis. It makes it hard just to get up, go to work, to handle even just your slightest noises. There's not a day that goes by that I don't hear a noise or something that sets me off or causes a flashback. or even just causes issues like that in general. It seems like we need to get out there and become more active so we can bring more alternatives to our soldiers. Medicine that won't cause me to stare at ceilings for hours on end like a soulless zombie. You know, things that don't keep me, you know, wandering around, not knowing what's going on around me, just medicated to the point of tolerance. I want something legally available to me, and that is cannabis, and that can help me function on a normal daily basis. I have issues eating, I have issues sleeping because of it. Because of the stuff that I've seen overseas, I ended up with ulcers as well. There's another thing that's always kept me calm, kept me healthful. It's been the one thing that's been getting me by with my job as well. It's a very stressful environment in there, and half the time when my PTSD kicks in, it leaves me pretty much useless to do anything else. And this is one of the few things that has been able to actually help me and has been able to allow me to function, you know, in a way that I can live my daily life. It all started in 2005. I was in Iraq, 2005, August 7th. I was going on a mission just like any normal day. Nothing seemed different. You know, we got our stuff ready, our weapons ready, our gear ready. We headed out on a mission like we did every single day. But then I started throughout the day noticing things were a little different, like the kids wouldn't come up to us like they normally would, which is always a bad sign. And right before it happened, I briefly remember, you know, handing out some food to some poor helpless kids that didn't have anything over there. And the next thing I know, from behind me comes this huge orange ball of light. And next thing I know, I remember being enveloped in flames, laid out on Iraqi soil, bleeding out, waiting for a medic to get to me. I ended up having to have my right forearm completely reconstructed. I have a hole in my left shoulder. I have shrapnel all throughout my body. And it ended up a 1.5-year process of recovery just to be able to function normally, only to deploy again, this time to Afghanistan. After there, I managed to survive quite a few firefights, and you know, now that I'm home, it's kind of leaving me with, you know, the big question: what now? I mean, I was trained to handle situations of life and death. I was trained to constantly be on my toes, but where does that leave us once we come home? How does this help return us to society? We're going to be an entire generation. We're going to be, and I'm sorry for using this disparaging term, we're going to be the next shell-shocked generation. We're going to be the ones that people are going to look at and be like, how come no one helped them? Why wasn't there something available for them? But I'll be damned if I'm going to sit here and let that happen. I'm going to help this cause to my utmost ability to make sure that there are alternatives for me and my fellow soldiers, Marines, airmen, and sailors. And until that day, I shall just continue to fight. Thank you.
How you doing? My name's Sean DeMay. I'm speaking on behalf of Crohn's disease. For those of you not familiar with Crohn's disease, it's a really bad inflammation of the bowel. They can get, it's like your whole insides are inflamed to the point it's really painful. And almost anything you eat or drink is affected by it. And the only medication I've ever found to help is cannabis. And I'm thankful that I started using cannabis recreational well before I even knew I had Crohn's, so I probably wouldn't even be alive. But good morning. I'm sorry, it's just thinking about Shauna Banda and her problems bring up a lot of hard times I've had with my Crohn's. So if I go more than 2 days without cannabis, inflammation gets out of hand to the point I'm afraid to leave my house. And so I'm unable to work because of my problem, and it's difficult for me to obtain my cannabis because of how it's not regulated and it's illegal. I can't grow it myself. I can't afford to buy it. I don't know where to get it. I don't know what's in it when I do get it. I don't get no medical information on it. I have to find it myself. The whole prohibition is affecting all the patients. They're taking it for their health whether they know it or not. Like for me, I used it 6 years before I even knew I had Crohn's disease, and it helped me in the process. The things I'm putting into my body, the fast food, the caffeine with the sodas, all that is getting inflammation and irritating it. So the cannabis keeps that inflammation down, because that's what's most supplied to us is in our bad food. The high sugars and cholesterol all irritate the inflammation, and it's really difficult to keep that out of hand without the cannabis. So I just like people to speak up for cannabis. It does more amazing things than you could ever imagine. There's really nothing that it can't help with. And I think it should be viewed more as an anti-inflammatory, over-the-counter medicine rather than like a hard drug or on the lines of a pain pill. It's nothing like that. And so if you have bad heartburn or bleeding problems, you might want to get look into Crohn's. It's becoming more common over the years for the bad diet. And if you have friends that might suspect they have Crohn's or any anti-inflammatory disease, arthritis, anything, the cannabis will help with that. There's so many different anti-inflammatory disease that Crohn's cannabis can help with. So I'd like to introduce people to cannabis as anti-inflammatory for their diseases. Also, cannabis goes against all religious our religious rights. Because for me, I've gotten into holistic healing, taking the bad medications the doctors are forcing on me. Want me to take 13 anti-inflammatory pills a day that's shutting down my kidneys. I couldn't take it. He had no other recommendation except for the drugs. So for me, I gotta strictly watch my diet and keep cannabis in my system. At least daily helps it the most. And if I can't do that, if I were to ever get arrested for it, my inflammation would get out of control to the point I might lose my life. Because the inflammation in your bowels can swell your bowels shut, can block your bowels, rip your intestines open, feces get in your blood, get an infection. There's so many bad things with Crohn's that can happen that the cannabis helps. We have CB1, CB2 receptors throughout our body. We're scientifically designed for these cannabinoids we're being restricted from that'll help fight cancer off, help fight diabetes, Crohn's, any anti-inflammatory disease, headache, PMS. It goes on and on. It's anything you can think of, some way, somehow, cannabis is going to help it, and it's not going to hurt you. I like people to look up more of the oils. Do a Google search on some of the oils and some of the health benefits of the oils. I'm sure Mike Hyde will go over some of the oil information further in depth. He has a lot to teach everybody. So that's about all I have to share at this time. I'd just like to let people know Crohn's is more out there than they're aware of, whether they have it or not. There's a possibility that even a small ulcer or heartburn could be the beginning symptoms of Crohn's. And just by taking antacids, you're not fixing your problem. Just by taking the drugs the doctors are offering you, you're not fixing your problem. What you need is cannabis and its oils to help with this disease. I need the oils to help cure my disease. And without being allowed the freedom to grow, those oils are difficult for me to obtain. So just please contact your congressman. We got national legislation pending, HR 2306. If we can get the federal legislation, states won't be so scared of feds coming in, and that could help everybody in the cannabis movement. Thank you.
First off, the clap should go to you guys. You're out in public talking about something that is not always socially acceptable, and that's what my first little bit is going to be about. It's going to be about the effect of social prohibitions. People don't realize Earlier, the anarchist was talking about the local prohibition, or the recent prohibition documentary. And anybody that watched it saw how eerily they match. A lot of people don't know this. Organized crime didn't even exist in this country for nearly the first 250 years that it was around. Only until we started with social prohibitions did we create these chaoses. I recently was explaining to somebody who wanted to know why marijuana, alcohol, even some of the more less talked about prohibitions like gambling and prostitution have caused problems. I personally believe that the 37 million criminal records that have been given to people in the last 40 years from these 4 prohibitions is the greatest strain on our social safety net, period. When you give people criminal records, it stigmatizes them. It doesn't allow them that same free market concept of trying to get a job, save for retirement, and live the American way. You add a ball and chain for things that we keep illegal for moral reasons. We never had an Al Capone in this country until alcohol prohibition existed. The stigmatizing of social prohibitions is something that's only existed in this country for the last 100 years. Anyone that doesn't believe me, I suggest you go home, turn on AMC, and watch the sheriff of any Western movie dating the head madam at a brothel. We had a completely different ideal towards those things 150 years ago. We didn't look at ourselves as Americans as somebody that told other people what to do. It was why we left in the first place. You don't tell people in this country what to do. You don't tell people in this country how to live their lives. You don't tell people in this country what they can eat, what they can drink, what they can smoke, who they can sleep with, who they can marry, what they can do. It's anti-American as a whole, and it is against everything that is consumed by the constitutionality of what makes us Americans. What I believe that we need to do is stop separating ourselves as movements. We need to get back to those basics. When I look at a group like the 7 little old ladies that were sitting around a table trying to start the Tea Party before it was sucked up by corporate America, and I look at us right now, I see no fundamental difference. We're all arguing about the same thing, broken government. We're all arguing about corporate corruption. We're all arguing about bigger interests than an individual being held above our individual freedoms, even though those aren't the bases for what make this country great. So I believe that we need to stop using social media in the way that some of us do. I believe we need to stop fighting back and forth between the Green Party and the Tea Party. We need to stop fighting back and forth between medical people and recreational people. I myself consider myself a recreational user. But at the same time, there's no aspirin in my house. And jumping out of airplanes, doing MMA, playing high school football, and generally just being a hillbilly that shows up somewhere who carries something when somebody asks me to, I got aches and pains too. And I don't use aspirin, I don't use Tylenol. You won't find prescription drugs in my home because I don't have to use them because I use cannabis. So when push comes to shove, recreational marijuana users are medical marijuana users, and we have to stop dividing between the two of us. When people start looking at things like Occupy Wall Street, you know, this crowd right here is a little bit small right now. The reason why is because 2 out of 3 of the chapters of Occupy Ohio started today. Occupy Cleveland, Occupy Cincinnati are both there. They were expecting somewhere in the range of 3,000 to 5,000 people in Cincinnati today. Monday, we start here in Columbus. The 3 groups have started to organize together, and my point is this. When we have things like this, when we have normal meetings, Cannabis Village meetings, Libertarian Party meetings, Green Party meetings, or we just decide to have a get-together, we need to start having it at the State House. We need to stop organizing demands and start demanding. Right? So that's my suggestion for the change that we need to start having. We need to say that now, since we're all working for the same thing as this, we all want to see medical marijuana end up on the ballot in 2012 in the state of Ohio. We want to see the patients get what they want. But the only place that laws can change in this state are about 1.4 miles away, according to my phone. And that's where we need to start spending our time. We need to start, there are non-violent ways to get our attention across. There are ways that won't get us arrested. I was reading a book last night about ways to just kind of get on people's nerves during non-violent civil disobedience. Get a group of people and have them stand by the car entrances with their shoes untied, and every time a politician goes to leave, just walk over, start tying your shoe. Make them read your shirt. Read our signs while they're standing there. We don't have to take over the highways. We don't have to burn down AEP. We don't have to destroy United Healthcare and Cardinal Health. We can come together on common things. We don't have to burn down the State House to raise the capital gains tax 7% to help pay for education. And those ideals, those extreme ideals are what drive us apart. We need to start working on what brings us together. Not only as this movement, but just as Americans. Because like I said before, the difference between Occupy Wall Street and the Tea Party's original beginnings are very, very small. Because when you look at them, we're all worried about the same thing, which is broken government. So I hope to see that we all can start using social medias and things like that a little bit better, and stop using them to divide ourselves. That's all I really wanted to get up here and speak for, was we need to stop using things to divide and just come together up there and start demanding that they make change. Because from right here, they can't hear us. I mean, I can get loud, I can get closer, we can turn it up to 11, but they're not going to hear us. And they're not going to care until they have to walk out and trip over us to go get a sandwich. Until they have to wait for us to move to leave the parking lot. Until it just becomes such a pain that they're just like, I am so tired of seeing those stupid stoners. Let's just sign this stupid legislation so they'll go home. That's the attitude we need to have. Has anyone here ever seen Storm of the Century?
Yeah.
If you give us what we want, we'll go away. And that's the attitude that we need to have, and nothing but. Thank you.
Hi guys, thank you for having this event, first off. We are so blessed to have such great activists in the state of Ohio that are included to help us. Thank you, Susan, and thank you everybody else who came to support this. As you know, we're trying to get the laws changed in the state of Ohio. We're watching what's going on in the other states, and it's a little bit scary. It really is. But because of their pain, we are getting more educated. We're learning where they failed, and hopefully we're going to be able to come in and help pick up the pieces and help support the other 16 states and the District of Columbia. Yes. I need to hear some cheering. I was just at an Occupy Cleveland event, and I've been watching them on TV, and I see people putting their thumbs up. So at least the thumbs up, when you guys start hearing stuff you like, you don't have to yell. Just give me the thumbs up so I know that I'm along the right track here. And talking about Occupy Cleveland, I think it's really important to start looking at the real basis for marijuana being illegal, which is corporate greed. And getting out there and talking to people and letting them realize that marijuana prohibition really is based in corporate greed. We're looking at all the different industries that are out there that don't have the competition of the hemp plant. We are talking about, of course, the pharmaceutical industry, but the cotton industry, the oil industry, the tobacco industry, the alcohol industry, the paper industry, the logging industry. We go and we put another product into the marketplace that has competition with them, then we can end up changing the economic infrastructure of the United States. Right now, Barack is out there talking about changing the infrastructure and putting people back to work by working on roads and working on buildings. I think working on sewer systems would be a good idea myself. But they're out there doing that. Why don't we look at changing the economic infrastructure and not just the overall physical infrastructure? If we legalize medical marijuana, because I'm a medical marijuana advocate, and we legalize the hemp plant, that is $1 trillion industry in the United States. If we start a $1 trillion industry, coming from my, my mother of 5 brain, I'm thinking there's going to be a couple jobs that get started. I would think that we'd be employing engineers in order to change over different buildings, mechanical engineers, chemical engineers, electric engineers. We'd have researchers working again. We would have the colleges looking at different industries. We would have entrepreneurship going. So now that's going off on a tangent. I want to see some thumbs up. Come on, some of that stuff was good. So where we're at with the Ohio Medical Cannabis Act is we have a very good, great core group of people who have been working together for a long time. And we're just trying to do the right thing by the patients of the state of Ohio. So we are under non-disclosures, which means I'm unable to communicate anything about what's going on with our group. But I have to say that it is a double thumbs up. And we are very, very proud to be working together. And hopefully you guys will be hearing from us very, very, very soon. So keep your eyes out, keep your ears out, go to your Occupy events and start educating the other people that are not like us how cannabis prohibition is actually corporate greed, and maybe we can get some changes happening. So thank you.
Nice to see everybody come out today. Thank you. I really wish there was a bigger, presence here. And I am here to help spread the word. And if I sound really nervous, pardon me, I get nervous. So, if you research I'll be real brief. If you research the Hip Hop for HIV period on the internet, what you'll find is that in Texas, they were having issues with, HIV. It was running rampant in their communities. And as a result, the legislation there decided to have a free concert, a hip hop concert, to encourage youth and underserved communities to come out so that they could be tested for HIV. And anybody that went through this testing then got to go to this concert with these really big names for free. So, but what I saw when I researched that was that all of the testing was being done by Planned Parenthood. I don't have a problem with Planned Parenthood. I just would prefer that the testing was done also by other groups. So I started the Hip Hop for HIV research team here in Columbus to encourage disadvantaged and underserved youth to get interested in biotechnology, biomedical sciences, and as a offshoot of that, we are now doing research into medical marijuana. And that is a social study that's going on right now. Right now, to date, we have not got the funding, but we're going to go ahead with the study anyway. Because I'm not the kind of person that believes that I have to wait for somebody's money to start doing something. It's free for me to enter the information. So, Hip Hop for HIV on the internet, if you'd like to get interested, or if you know somebody that is either using any of the following: medical marijuana as a recreational marijuana, or if you're using, I don't know if people know, synthetic cannabinoids. Is it cannabinoids or cannabinoids? Cannabinoids, thank you. But if you know of those things, or if you're actually taking part of those things, what we're doing is studying the social effects. Like, once you take the product, how you feel, how you interact with your family, how you interact with your environment. So, once again, anybody that would like to get interested in that particular study, and if you have any questions, or if you know any youth who are interested in biotechnology, OSU is one of the few universities in the nation that teaches biomedical sciences at the, undergraduate level. So we're just really interested in research. We're interested in, because, once you got the research done for this, you can actually, set out the facts. So thank you for your time, everybody. Thanks for coming out. And if you need any of my assistance, I certainly need yours. Come give me a holler and I'll give you a business card. Thank you very much for your time.
Welcome back to Overgrow Ohio, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, Waffles, come here. Come here, man. Come here. I want you to see how dedicated our soldiers are out here. All day, this young man's out here. He's sweating profusely right now. He kind of stinks a little bit, but it's good because he's a good friend of mine. Thank you. I love you, man. Now, you stink, bro. Thank you. He's a good man, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, I'm going to show you exactly what we need in Ohio. We need Ohioans to actually come out of their house. Get off the couch, please. The next time you know we are going to gather, you have got to join us outside of the internet where you're watching this video right now, outside of listening to just on your radio where you're going to hear it later, and join us here. We actually have people from other states coming in to support Ohio getting our laws changed. That means a lot to me, okay? Because we have at least 5 to 6 people here who have come in from Kentucky, Missouri, Montana, and New York to support us, and we can't get our own people to get their lazy asses off the couch to come here to support themselves.
Thank you. Give KC a round and put this together for us. A lot of speakers up here got up today talked about medical marijuana and all that. I'm all for that, but one of the main reasons I've been doing this for 20 years because I feel that we need to legalize marijuana as a cash crop and let our farmers grow it instead of sending all that money down to South America and Mexico. Right? Right. This is the United States of America, not Afghanistan. We're not an occupied territory, and our damn government shouldn't be treating us like one, right? Oh, yeah! My buddy Gatewood Galvin's down there running for governor of Kentucky. He's got a real good shot, so y'all need to think about maybe sending some money back the way, because campaigning nowadays isn't cheap. Gatewood's up against all the other people got all the guns, money, in the media, but we got the truth. Now is the time. We need to kick their ass in Kentucky, right? Y'all can just follow us right behind to do it. And don't think that we're not winning the war. Anybody got anybody here telling you crazy that they think we're never going to legalize marijuana? Yeah. Anybody hearing that? Well, I'll tell you what, I've been doing this stuff for 20 years. 20 years ago, we didn't have anything. Everybody, Jeff, you're crazy. They're never going to legalize marijuana. Look at us 20 years later. We got 16 states with medical marijuana right now. Next year, 2012, Colorado is going to try to vote straight across the board, legalized for medicinal and recreational. We are winning the war, ladies and gentlemen. And I thank you all for that and everything you've done. We are going to grow 50 this year. We'll get a couple hundred next year, right? And I promise you, if we do this again, I'll be right back here. Him for Victory, Gatewood Galvin for governor. Let's plant the seed and get out of that greed, right? Thank you all.
Blaze on revolution!
Good afternoon. It is absolutely my pleasure to be here, and I have to admit this is kind of a coming out for me. I've been a computer activist. I've talked to people for years and years about the ridiculousness of prohibition. And I decided it's time to take that a step further and stand out in public, and I would encourage anybody to do the same thing. And I want to tell you a little bit about the reasoning behind that in our story, because it is truly a family story, and that's why the family is here with me today. My son, my husband is in the back with my daughter and my granddaughter. My husband suffers from end-stage renal disease. He was diagnosed a year ago due to an unfortunate illness. And he has developed all kinds of other health problems as a result of that. Now, there are a lot of doctors out there who think that my husband should be on all kinds of narcotic medication, opioid pain relievers, all of which cause addiction issues and actually exacerbate his illness. The one thing that we have found that helps relieve his pain and keep him living some quality of life is the use of cannabis. Now, we've been recreational users for years. I'm not going to lie about that. Anti-prohibition all the way. Medical marijuana is especially close to my heart right now because of my husband's illness. And in looking down this avenue, information at first was harder to get, and that's why I support these grassroots events like this, because there's information here to be had if you're interested. If you're truly interested, we want to talk to you, we want to educate you. I have started cooking with cannabis. My husband's diet is very restricted because of his illness. Therefore, it's very, very important that we cook from scratch and use whole foods anyhow. Using cannabis and the foods that he consumes helps control the terrible chronic pain that he feels. from muscle and neurological issues that are side effects of the kidney failure. In addition to that, my own son suffers from ADHD, Ritalin, all of those medications. They're just drugs. They're poison that the doctors and the pharmaceutical companies want you to put in your bodies. We're making them rich. The truth of the matter is, cannabis does more for my son than any prescription ever did to help control his ADHD. I have a very dear friend who is in his 50s, took Ritalin as a kid, has tried all of the ADHD drugs that are out there. Cannabis is the one solution that gives him solace without the miserable side effects. It helps keep him focused. It helps him get up and go to work every day. Helps him to be a better person. You know, I can't say enough about the reasons why cannabis is important for medicine. More importantly, to decriminalize that, to keep people out of jail. There isn't anybody here that I've seen today that's a criminal. We're not criminals. We're simply using a natural plant that grows on the earth for the medicinal purposes which it was intended. You know, I'm a grandmother now. You know, all I can say is get out there, talk to people that you know. Don't be afraid to stand up for what you believe in, because it's very, very important. People suffer and people die needlessly, and we need to do everything that we can to help keep that from happening. We need to stop filling the jails with innocent, non-violent people who have done nothing more than procure cannabis or use cannabis themselves. It's immoral, and we need to put an end to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. As a matter of fact, can you go ahead and introduce us to your family real quick?
Yes. This is my beautiful granddaughter, Kaylee. She's 3. This is her dad and my son, Charles. He's 20. Sitting back here on the bench in the hat and the tie-dye shirt is my husband, James. Next to him is our beautiful 16-year-old daughter, Megan. And they're all on board, and they know what mom and dad are about, and they're okay with that.
Beautiful. Thank you, Pat. Thank you so much. You just set us up for a perfect introduction to our next speaker.
A few years ago, I don't know how to say this. I went to Texas to get some smoke, because I smoke a lot of pot. And it's all medical related. It has to do with a broken spine. The doctors cannot find a way to fix my problem, so I smoke pot. And on the way back, I was pulled over in Tennessee. They arrested me, they put me in jail, put a $50,000 bail on me for 1 pound of pot that was for personal use. They accused me of trying to deliver. And I was facing 7 years. I almost committed suicide over it. And that is what it made me come out, because I'm so angry that they brought me to the point of where I felt like killing myself. And I know there's millions of other people out there that's going through that. And in Kentucky, there's only one candidate that we have that can fix this, and it's Goodale Park. And so if anybody's listening from Kentucky, Goodale Park is the only one that can fix this in Kentucky. I'm here to support Ohio. I'm here to support everything y'all do. Thank you.
I want to thank everybody who has come out today. If you don't mind just for a second. Today, I'd like to talk about... Yeah, let me go this way. I'm going to talk a little bit more about what we've been going through here in Ohio, if you don't mind for a second. Right now, we have multiple groups that have been trying to pull together and make something happen, make something move for medical cannabis here. And we haven't been able to spread the word as much as we should. And the problem with that, once again, I was saying earlier, was because we don't have enough people coming out to actually support themselves. To support what they do, what their family does, and what we do. Most people sit around and say, what's the point? It's never going to be legalized. And yes, we are right now looking at 17 states that are now legal. Why we're not legal makes absolutely no sense to me. Why Arizona became legal before Ohio became legal makes absolutely no sense to me. Not that I have anything against Arizona, but Arizona has been behind the times very much in the past, and now they are way more progressive than we are here. And we used to be part of the freedom trails, the freedom rides that were done in the 60s. They came from a lot of people in Ohio. I just stood in Washington, D.C. in April with people from Ohio who made Washington, D.C. happen. I got to stand in front of the White House and in front of the president's own palace. And that day we invited the president to come out and speak with us, to come sit with us, to learn who we were. And instead, he wanted to go to California so he could do a Facebook interview. I can't remember the guy's name who created Facebook. Somebody may know. Yeah, Zuckerberg, and that's the polite way that I say it. Zuckerberg is his name. But what the president saw was it was more important to sit with Mark Zuckerberg in California to do a Facebook town hall meeting than to face the well over 1,000 people that we brought to his home. And it's never an excuse that he didn't have time. He knew 6 months in advance before we were coming. I had Secret Service track down my background because we were going to go to Washington, D.C., and they knew who we were. When we were there, we had at least 5 cops trying to stop us from putting on our event. Today in Columbus, Ohio, we have nobody here trying to stop our event. We are allowed to speak, we are allowed to stand up, we're allowed to come out, and yet people don't want to do it. People say they're scared. People say they don't have enough money. People say they have a birthday party to attend. Well, you know what? I've had family that I have lost for 7-year stretches. I have missed family grow because they have ended up in jail over prohibition. I can give up a birthday party 1 year because there will be another one next year, I promise. I have watched people I work with give up honeymoons. I have watched them give up anniversaries. I have watched them miss their own children grow because they're going to continue to stand on the front line fighting for you, fighting for me, fighting for us all. And we want to keep on fighting. If we would all stand together, we would have to keep this fight up because sooner or later they would fall to what we want. The will of the people can overcome. Just like they did in Egypt, we can overcome. We can't stand. Right now, in New York, in many states, as a matter of fact, I'm going to be at one next week sometime. We have an Occupy Columbus going on here. Occupy has so many young people who are standing up right now together, and they're inspiring the older folks to now come out with them and stand together. So now they have in the thousands, they have marked in the thousands of people who are standing in New York right now, little shanty towns. They're camping out, and they don't even have one set agenda. We actually have a set agenda that we have at least 4 different sides fighting against each other against the one agenda that we have. The agenda that we have is to free the tree, to end prohibition, so that we all have a chance to do what we want. It doesn't matter if you're here for medical, if you're here for recreational, just because you want to get high, that is your right as an American to do what you choose, and no one can tell you different. If you want to be able to build a house using hemp, if you want to paint the house with hemp, and if you want to put materials around the house all made of hemp, it is your God-given American right. That's what we were told when this land started, and that's what we're fighting for now. So technically, we're real Americans. People at home aren't. The people who stay at home have nothing to say to us because they don't stand at all. People say if you don't get out and vote, then you don't have a voice. If you don't stand, if you don't serve for some reason, then you have no voice. But we'll continue to have a voice. I'm going to take one quick short break, and I'm about to bring someone who I hope to God will inspire you, because for every person who says a reasoning for not getting out to be active, again, whether it's I'm tired, I have to work, I have prior obligations. Right now, after this break, you're going to find out that I have a 75-year-old grandmother, great-grandmother, she's my grandmother, a 75-year-old activist here with us today who's going to be flying back to New York first thing in the morning where she's from because she has a birthday party to throw in her own house. She set up the gifts, the dishes, and everything else before she left New York to come here, but she's here at 75 years old. She won't stop walking. So give us a second, and we're going to bring her out. Be right back.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Andrew's name is Hi.
Hi.
I don't think we can go to jail for that, can we? It's legal. Hi. Okay. I'm really happy to be here. I am not going to go into politics and details like these other speakers because they are more informed and educated and much more articulate and eloquent speakers than I'll ever dream of being. I can only tell you my story and what I've experienced and what I see and what my viewpoint is on the whole case. I grew up in Detroit, and I don't think I ever heard of marijuana till I was about 12. Actually, I'm 5 months older than Prohibition. My birthday's March 4th, and President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, he signed the Prohibition law August 2nd, 1937. I don't recall anybody ever talking about marijuana. If they did, it was really hush-hush. I was about 12 when I first heard, and there was a movie star, Robert Mitchum. He was arrested. Actually, a cop walked by his house and saw him lighting up through the window, and he got busted. It almost destroyed his career. But he made a comeback, and he got over it. But I remember it was in all the newspapers. I was probably 11 years old, and I wanted to know what marijuana was. But nobody in my family smoked cigarettes, and they didn't drink, so I'm not even sure if they even knew themselves, except for what anybody else might have known at that time. When I married, things changed. I was 17, my husband was 32. He was a professional gambler, a sports promoter, and a fight manager. So to keep up with him, I used to try to hang out with him, and I thought it was legal. I didn't know it was illegal at the time. Everybody was doing it, at least that subculture. But still, it was hush-hush. It was my idea, I guess, to buy the first weed because he didn't drink really, and I didn't drink at all, and we barely did it. And it was New Year's, and I said, well, maybe we should do this. And he wasn't too keen about it, but anyway, we did do it. But everything was always done quietly. And you really had to know somebody's great-great-grandmother's third cousin from God knows where in order to get something, and I think it cost about $15 an ounce. And it didn't have a name to it. You just went and bought marijuana. Weed, they called it weed then too. And I think it came in cans, if I can remember correctly. I don't remember baggies or anything like that. It wasn't until I got sick that I really got involved with it. And it was my doctor who, I love telling the story because I went to NYU Medical Center in New York City, and they had given me a 20 to 25% chance to make it to Christmas. It was 1980. I was 43 years old at the time. And the way they did things, it was breast cancer, so they wouldn't know till they actually performed the operation how bad it was, and they took 27 lymph nodes and it was in half of them. So my doctor said there's a government program, but by the time I do the paperwork, you may not be here. He said, you're going to have to reach out, plus this stuff isn't that great. And I love telling this story because I walked out of NYU Medical Center. I stood on the sidewalk and I could have taken the train home. I didn't have a cell phone. People didn't really have them then. I needed to look at my address book, and I'm sure I would have made a contact. I walked like I knew what I was doing, and I said, God, please help me. And he did.
Hello everybody, I'm Mike Hyde, father of Cash Hyde. Last year, when Cash was 18 months old, he was diagnosed with a stage 4 malignant brain tumor known as a PNET brain tumor. He is the youngest medical cannabis patient in the United States of America. Last year, when we decided to give Cash cannabis oil, he had not eaten in over 40 days. He was vomiting 8 to 10 times a day. And he was on over 8 different nausea and pain cocktail medications. The thing about childhood cancer is that there is no childhood chemotherapy or drug protocol for them. If your child has cancer, they are given the same chemotherapy and nausea cocktails as an adult. Cassie was given Ativan, Zofran, Benadryl, Benadryl, morphine, oxycodone, morphine, Demoline, and ketamine every 2 hours, around the clock, for over 5 months as I watched Cashy deteriorate, trying to stay alive and fight the cancer that was going to ultimately take his life, as I was told. At the end of 40 days, after watching Cash suffer so terribly bad that he could not even lift his head off his pillow anymore, and the high-dose chemo they were giving him was literally causing his skin to peel off like a snake, I sat down with the doctors and I asked them, is there anything we can do for Cashy? And that's when he explained to me, Mike, your son has a stage 4 brain tumor. We are fighting it with high-dose chemotherapy. This is the roller coaster. It will not get any better than this. This is the best we can do for your son. And that's when I told them, I find that unacceptable. I find that unacceptable because there is proven reports all over the place that cannabis is the best nausea and pain medication known to man. And not only is it the best, but is the safest. By safest, I mean there is no death with cannabis in the whole history. The feds and the DEA will tell us that there is no history, but there is. It's been in our history for over 5,000 years. It is proven. NationalCancer.gov in March made a web section called Cannabis and Cannabinoids. You can visit it by dialing www.cancer.gov into your search engine and then typing cannabis into their search box on their website. It'll pull up this section, and this section is so informative. It'll tell you the history of cannabis. It'll tell you what it does to your body, why it does what it does. When you're done reading this article, cannabis doesn't seem so amazing. It doesn't even seem like a miracle plant, because it's not. I'm not a doctor and I'm not a rocket scientist. I can't tell you why cannabis does what it does, but there are doctors and scientists out there that can. I didn't fly down here to Missoula, Montana to tell the group of you about how medical cannabis is, because we already know. It's already there. We're beating a dead horse. I flew all the way down here to tell you guys to keep fighting, to educate yourself. There is no debate. If someone tries to debate you, you educate them. You shut them down. You tell them that you will not allow them to have an uneducated opinion on something as big as the cure to cancer and the best and safest preventative medicine known to man. Nobody should be able to interfere with that with an uneducated opinion. It is not allowed. I won't tolerate it anymore. I flew all the way down here from Missoula to tell you guys that medical marijuana is a joke. Medical marijuana is unconstitutional. Medical marijuana shouldn't even be a term. It is cannabis. Cannabis has medical value. It's indisputable. Read about Dr. Ethan Russo. He is the doctor and neuroscientist that discovered the endocannabinoid system existed in human bodies and all living organisms, besides a few, I think it was a couple of insects. So upon his discovery, he found that we get our earliest form of cannabinoids out of mother's breast milk. That means that when we're infants and we feed off the mother's breast, that we get endocannabinoids for these receptors. Whenever your receptors in your body receive cannabinoids, it causes the death and excretion of dying and sick cells. Then CB2 receptors form, and those cause the healthy function and growth of new cells. That's why it's so important in babies, because it literally will help their body grow and grow healthy. At the same time, we're telling our children that cannabis, or AKA marijuana, is a gateway drug. Cannabis is not a gateway drug. It is the gateway off of drugs. I witnessed more people in the last year and a half come off of hardcore narcotic drugs with cannabis than you would even believe. The most abused drug and overdose drug in the United States and Britain is children's Tylenol. Children's Tylenol will kill you. If you give children's Tylenol to your kid, you are playing Russian roulette with your kid's life. It will destroy their liver. It is proven. It will destroy their kidneys. If you take 5 minutes to grab the things out of your day-to-day life that you consume, that you give your child without thinking twice, I guarantee you there are side effects and there are death rates, and they are approved by the FDA. The FDA has monopolized our health care. The FDA has monopolized our lives. The FDA has given us one option, their option. And if you go against their option, you can be put in jail. I have a handful of pamphlets here that I'll pass out when I'm done. And on those pamphlets, it says cannabis is the cure. I could be jailed for 50 years for saying that, but I will say that right here today. I will say it tomorrow. I said it yesterday, and I will continue saying it until we legalize cannabis. The reason why we need to legalize cannabis all the way around and just not for medicinal users is because by allowing the states to do medicinal laws, we are allowing the state legislatures to practice medicine without a license, and that is not allowed. We never delegated powers to the state or the federal government to dictate what foods we eat or what medicines we take. In fact, one of the fine gentlemen that drafted the Constitution of the United States left a quote for us, and it goes like this: if the people let the government dictate what foods they eat and what medicines they take, then soon their bodies will be in a poor of a state as the souls of those who live under tyranny. That was from Thomas Jefferson. Martin Luther King left a quote. He said, it's every citizen's duty in a just society to obey just laws. However, at the same time, it is every citizen's duty to disobey unjust laws. So if you want to make a difference, you're at it, you're doing it, you're making your voice be heard, but you need to do more. You need to remind your politicians, you need to remind your attorney generals, we need to remind our prosecutors and our judges their oath that they took to sit in the office that they're sitting in. And the first couple sentences go a little something like this: I solemnly swear to protect and uphold the Constitution of the United States of America, and I will not wittingly or unwittingly undermine the Constitution of the United States of America. How is it that the cure to cancer does not meet that definition? Because it does. If you read the preamble to the Constitution of the United States of America or the preamble to the Constitution of Ohio, you will see some heavy words in that preamble. The United States says this Constitution was established to guarantee to the American people their welfare. If you look up what the definition of welfare means for them, it means pursuit of happiness, health. The other thing that they made the Constitution for was our posterity. Posterity is your children and their children, and their guaranteed right to survive and pass on your lineage. How can we have posterity when our children are dying of cancer? We can't. A cancer patient dies a really sad death. They die of starving to death. And they die a death of a heroin addict, because that's their only option. Even murderers on death row get 3 square meals a day. Cancer patients don't. The doctors tell you they're doing the best they can do. They're not. I've watched it. I watched my son. I watched him over a period of 10 days after I started giving him cannabis oil under the radar in a state where it's federally and statewide illegal to even have that there. I did it under the radar to save my child's life, and it worked. I have not been attacked by the authorities or by anybody because it's been documented by the University of Utah. It's been documented by the Huntsman Cancer Institute of America. It's been documented by the staff at Primary Children's Hospital. They pulled him off of 9 different drugs in a period of 2 weeks that it will take cancer patients the rest of their life to overcome. The FDA sent, or the American Medical Association sent Pfizer a letter about 7 months ago saying, hey guys, there's an epidemic of cancer patients that are survivors. They're all on methadone and Oxycontin and all these other various drugs for anxiety and sleep. We need to come up with a cure-all medication that will hit every one of these elements so these cancer patients can live a better quality of life. Well, we already have it, and it's called cannabis oil. And if you read Dr. Ethan Russo's book, The Therapeutic Journals of Cannabis, You will read how it's not amazing. He explains everything. He will make it so at the end of the day, you're not a criminal. Because our bodies are naturally designed to consume cannabis and cannabinoids. Our children are dying today, not because of cannabis. They're dying because they can't have cannabis. When you reach into the medicine cabinet and give your child some children's Tylenol, you could be killing your child. I will not be, because I don't have to give my child children's Tylenol. I give Cash 0.3 milliliters of cannabis oil every night at 7 o'clock. We were told that Cashy would need to be on dialysis the rest of his life because of the damage of chemotherapy and the narcotics they gave him. Cash's liver, kidneys, heart, lungs, and everything check out over 100% healed. Cashy survived septic shock, stroke, and pulmonary hemorrhaging, all side effects of chemotherapy. We were told that he would have brain damage and organ failure, and that ultimately he would die. However, Cashy did not die. Cashy did not have brain damage, and Cash did not have organ failure. And it's because of the proven and patented antioxidant and neuroprotecting capabilities that cannabis has. Many researchers have proven that cannabis will cure cancer and stop it from growing and benefit any cancer patient, hands down. However, until we legalize cannabis and hemp nationwide, these patients will never be able to benefit from this medicine, and the people that are caregivers for them will always risk prosecution. So that's why we have to legalize it all the way around. I sat back here today and I heard several speakers refer to themselves as recreational smokers. Shame on you. You are not a recreational smoker. Everybody has got the God-given right to use a preventative medicine. Everybody's got the God-given right to have an antioxidant and neuroprotectant in them. You are not a recreational user. Why don't you read a book written by Dr. Ethan Russo and you will all understand that. You are not a criminal. You should not be told you're a criminal. Do not allow people to look at you as criminals, because we are not. Together we will stand, we will unite, and we will fight this. Together we will quit asking and we will start demanding safe access to cannabis. We will reclaim the green agricultural industry that was stolen from us over 75 years ago. If you grab a Dasani water bottle, you can read the side of it. Every Dasani water bottle says this bottle was made from 30% plant material. Now the way they do that is they make plastic out of cellulose. The hemp plant is 85% cellulose. They've known that for a long time, since about 1932 or something like that. If you type in $1 million crop into Google, you then read about the machine called the decorator. The decorator is the reason why we are all living under prohibition today. The decorator made processing hemp one of the easiest and most economically friendly things to do in over thousands of years. It answered questions that Thomas Jefferson and George Washington wished they could have when they went to China and stole hemp seed so we could grow hemp in America. George Washington said, we will grow hemp in every fertile soil and we will never, ever depend on a foreign resource or a foreign country for their resources again. But what are we doing today? We're depending on foreign resources. Everybody here has got a relative, or 10 of them, that don't have a job. And if they do have a job, it's for a low-paying wage. We all have the same heartaches, the same problems, and it all goes back to one plant, the tree of life. If you have somebody that believes in God, that's against cannabis, you need to tell them to look up the definition of Messiah. Messiah means the anointed one. What was the Messiah anointed with, one would ask? Well, look that up. The holy oil. What is the holy oil? The holy oil is cannabis flower, olive oil, and a few other herbs that I can't quite remember at this moment. If you look up the definition of cannabis flower, it is Hebrew for cannabis. We've been using cannabis for thousands of years. Jesus was prosecuted for healing with cannabis when he walked the earth. Here we are today with the same tribulations, the same problems, but we still have the same solution. And it is everybody needs to unite. You do not cast a stone at a social smoker. You do not cast a stone at a medical smoker. You did not cast a stone at a hemp protester, because we're all talking about the same plant, from the same seed, the seed to the tree of life. Open up Genesis. It says, I give you all seed, bearing plants and herbs. Doesn't say except for cannabis. It says I give you all. I will break every law known to man to save my child's life. And if you don't have the courage to do it, I will help you. If you want a story to reference back to when you're fighting, reference my story. Because I'm educated. I'm ready to put someone in their spot. No one can tell me that cannabis isn't safe, because I know it is. Nobody can tell me that I can't give my child cannabis and I have to give them children's Tylenol or Oxycontin or Demerol or ketamine. The scariest thing I ever seen was watching my son's heart stop after a doctor prescribed him fentanyl. Fentanyl will stop your child's heart and respiratory system like that. I watched it happen to Cash over 7 times. After that, the scariest thing with watching a kid is giving them Demerol or ketamine. The main side effect of ketamine next to death is hallucinations. If you've never watched a 2-year-old hallucinate, go to one of your childhood hospitals and relieve one of the parents that are sitting there assisting their child fighting an illness. It is the scariest thing you've ever seen. I replaced all those drugs with cannabis oil. My kid is documented as the Christmas miracle. My kid is documented as amazing and miraculous recovery. I was told that Cash will be referenced and talked about at the Huntsman Cancer Institute of America for years to come, and that he will go down to the bone marrow transplant Hall of Fame. The only missing link to Cash's story to the rest of the other people that didn't survive what he survived is cannabis oil. That's why I'm here talking to you today. I will tell everybody about cannabis oil. Nobody can prove me wrong. There's a book called The Emperor Wears No Clothes. It has a $100,000 reward if you can prove it wrong. It's been in print for almost 20-something years now. No one's claimed that reward because you can't. As you start digging through the history of cannabis and hemp, you will realize that in 1932, there was 26 different cannabis tinctures on the pharmacy shelves before it was legalized. If we legalize cannabis and hemp tomorrow, we can start industry again. I'm all about industry, and I'm about fighting cancer. Everything we have wrapped around our foods at home is wrapped in petrochemical plastic. Everybody asks me, Mike, how did Cash get cancer? I tell them, how didn't he? How didn't Cash get cancer? We're feeding our children McDonald's and Mountain Dews and Skittles, and we do not think twice about it. But we do not realize what it's doing to their bodies, and to the bodies of their children when they reproduce. Once everybody educates themselves, then they can educate the next group of people. And that's what these organizations need to do. I walked over 3 blocks that way. There is a farmer's market this morning. You guys need to be there. You have the right. No one can arrest you for going and telling the truth. And if they do arrest you, great. Go serve your time. Kids fighting cancer, they don't get to walk off the oncology floor because they're going to tap out. They got to sit there and they got to fight it. And so do we. Kids can't fight cancer alone. We got too many mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters locked up in jail over cannabis prohibition. We need to free them. Every day, 1,500 Americans die of cancer. That means we have a 9/11 every 2 days in the United States of America. We have been at war for 10 years. We have spent trillions of dollars. We have lost countless American lives, all in the name of 3,000. I'm not devaluing those lives. That was a horrific day. But every other day we have a 9/11. Every other day. Every day our rivers, our waters, our oceans, our environment is polluted by corporate America and their cure to cancer. We're polluted by the way they make our plastics. We're polluted by the way they make our clothing. Everything is tainted, and that is what we have to stand up against. I flew down here to help you guys fight because you're fighting, and I'll be at any event in the United States where I can make it to talk. I will not stop, and I will not back down, and nor should you. Thank all of you for having me down here today. And remember, cannabis will be legal because we say it will be legal. And we, the people, are demanding the change that America deserves.
Hey guys, just real quick before everything breaks up, I don't know if you're all aware, but Occupy Columbus will be starting Monday morning down at the State House. We hope to have a presence out there every day for as long as we need to stand in solidarity until something changes. Because, well, most of us are just sick of having our government bought and paid for.
Oh yeah!
Right on. Occupy!
Occupy!
And Overgrow.
And we've occupied and overgrew Goodale Park, and they're going to end up kicking us out. So we're going to have to go. But the other day, I was at the Occupy meeting, the rally. We had a good 75 people there signing up for leadership. That's just the leadership of it. So let's get out and let's occupy Columbus, Cleveland, Dayton, Toledo, and everywhere else we can. Let's occupy it with cannabis. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming out today. CannabisVillage.org. We will see you soon. I love each and every one of you. You're all my friends. I can't wait till we can blaze up together legally. Blaze of the Revolution. Thank you. Love you all.